Hello and welcome. My name's Chris Cann with Harbour Insight, and with me I have Andrew Penkethman, who is Chief Executive of Ardea Resources. Ardea is putting the pieces in place for its massive Kalgoorlie Nickel Project at the Gungari Hub in Western Australia. And we're having a series of conversations with Andrew, getting into the detail of the project and how it looks as that comes together. In this conversation, we're really interested in the significant joint venture partnership between Sumitomo and Mitsubishi, and having a look at some of the financing and cash elements in place at the moment. Andrew, welcome.
Thanks, Chris.
Andrew, let's start with the joint venture. Obviously, that is one of the fundamental drivers. It is a core influence, and it's a massive benefit for Ardea and the Kalgoorlie Nickel Project. Two key partners in Sumitomo and Mitsubishi, which we won't have to introduce to anyone watching. Give us some background on how the partnership came about and some of the core underlying fundamentals of how it operates.
Well, yeah, first and foremost, Sumitomo Metal Mining and Mitsubishi Corporation, terrific incorporated joint venture partners. We've been collaborating for several years now. Including detailed due diligence on Ardea and the technical aspects of the Kalgoorlie Nickel Project, Gungari Hub as well. Very much a deliberate strategy from Ardea's perspective to look at bringing in the best credentialed partners to help us realise the maximum potential of the Kalgoorlie Nickel Project. And just very briefly with Sumitomo Metal Mining, clearly their full integration within the nickel supply chain from mines in the Philippines and their own nickel laterite expertise through to their entire supply chain within nickel, and then Mitsubishi Corporation, huge global organisation, and they've been helping the Australian resources sector for many decades now, and similarly, involved in developing mega projects right around the world. So I think that combination with Ardea's local experience and of course our own globally significant mineral resources within the Kalgoorlie Nickel Project makes an ideal mix.
Okay. And how does it operate? Is the terms, obviously, your partners are earning into the project. Over what period and what are the milestones that have to be ticked off to recognise that investment?
So we're working under the mandate of a cooperation agreement through the DFS process, and it starts with our partners fully funding the in-progress Definitive Feasibility Study with a budget of $98.5 million, so Ardea's free carried. Once we hit the 50% funding milestone, our partners will earn their first 17.5% in our wholly owned subsidiary, Kalgoorlie Nickel Proprietary Limited, which is the company completing the Definitive Feasibility Study and who holds the Gungari Hub. Once the DFS is completed, our partners will be awarded a second 17.5% stake in KNPL to take their shareholding to 35%. And once they make a final investment decision, they'll be awarded another 15% stake to take their interest to a combined 50%, and they're obviously retaining the other 50%. But that last piece with the final investment decision is, obviously incredibly important. And you can imagine with two such, large, successful organisations, they have, incredible contacts to export credit agencies and commercial debt and equity opportunities around the world, and similarly Ardea's been doing a lot of work in that space for several years as well.
Okay, so the funding for the DFS is coming from your joint venture partners. Ardea's doing the work. What does it look like in terms of harvesting some of the intellectual capacity? You've talked about some of the contacts that Sumitomo and Mitsubishi have in their network and the Rolodex there, but obviously a wealth of experience as well in these projects. How do you use and leverage that intellectual capacity to help what you're doing as you deliver the feasibility?
It's very much a collaborative approach. So KNPL team numbers approximately 50 personnel now, and separately within Ardea we've got about 10 personnel, including part-time and full-time, and that includes the entire board as well. Then similarly, we have a large number of Sumitomo Metal Mining and Mitsubishi Corporation personnel involved directly on the definitive feasibility study, both the technical and commercial work streams. We have daily communications. Our partners are good enough to travel to Perth at least once a month for a week of very detailed project-linked discussions. So the level of collaboration's exceptional, and bringing in the expertise from each organisation, and in particular the technical expertise in developing and operating nickel laterite projects from Sumitomo, and similarly, globally significant resource projects from Mitsubishi as well.
Looking at Ardea on its own just for a moment, what's the cash situation? Obviously an important factor in it and consideration for the market and the investors, just understanding how much is in the bank that you can actually speak about. Obviously we're in between reporting periods at the moment, and what are the commitments that are coming up? And then with the joint venture, at what point will you need to be going back to the market when you're needing to fund your part of development?
We're well funded, thanks, Chris. Debt-free, company's in a good position, and as you highlighted, we've got our partners fully funding the in-progress definitive feasibility study. That's due for completion late calendar year 2025. From there, each partner has to contribute their share of project development funding, and we're already having a number of key discussions with our partners on future funding strategy, but similarly with large export credit agencies, potential offtake partners, and other sources of capital. So there's a great level of interest in this project, both here within Australia, but similarly overseas. And I'd like to think we'll be able to provide more details as various work streams are wrapped up, but there's a great level of work being put into that future funding strategy and how that will all come together to see Ardea maintain its project interest and see the project developed and ultimately commissioned and large-scale, successful, profitable nickel cobalt producer.
I'll take the hint and won't push you too hard on exactly what the financing might look like, Andrew, but can you give us some idea of the ideal balance that you guys are thinking about at the moment? As you mentioned, you've got connections of your own with very strategic potential financiers. Your joint venture partners will obviously facilitate conversations for you as well. You've got major project status, I believe, both at a federal and a state level. There is strategic interest there from governments, and there could be more. It's a 2.6 billion capex project, so that there's a lot of requirement for capital, but a lot of room for equity. How do you see yourself balancing the various opportunities you'll have to get the right mix of finance to make sure that everyone wins and the projects aren't under too much pressure with any particular commitment?
So when we completed our 2023 PFS, the capex number was approximately $3.1 billion Australian. We'll obviously update that as part of the in-progress DFS, and it's too early to see, where the capital and operating cost numbers are. But, obviously we're looking for the best possible outcomes for the project. Great level of interest from export credit agencies right around the world. So I'd like to think we will be able to access, some of the most cost competitive debt available in the world. And historically we've seen that from these large export credit agencies around the world. The debt to equity ratio yet to be determined, but, we're clearly having those discussions, and there's potential support as well around funding and loan guarantees and working capital. So it's a key undertaking for us. It's a key priority work stream for both Ardea and our partners. But yeah, we think with the collaboration between Ardea, Sumitomo and Mitsubishi, we're incredibly well positioned to see this project developed as, a very significant alternative source of nickel and cobalt that meets the highest ESG standards and, satisfies Australia and our key partners to make sure we bring these new mega projects online and we've got that security of supply for multiple decades.
Andrew, that's all we've got time for. Thanks so much for joining us.
Always good to catch up. Thanks, Chris.